amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for still being there with us. We told you earlier that we're not far from the conversation we started during the newspaper review segment, practically looking at all the major headlines and stories, and of course how it affects the nation. State of the nation is apparently focused today. Again, 100 million naira APC presidential form shocks Nigerians. We have Chief Dan Ulasi with us in the studio, and he joins us to take a look at the state of the nation while we also interrogate this huge sum of money that some Nigerians have called outrageous, 100 million just to pick up a nomination form. All right, Chief Dan, good to have you with us.
I mean, Senate said I was mortified earlier. I'm still very surprised. And you know, we're just talking about the PDP cost of forms earlier at 50 million naira for presidency or presidential aspiration form, and we thought that was actually, you know, humongous. And now here we are, 100 million naira for. It's almost as if it's a franchise. So what's your take?
Well, this is where we start the interview. Yeah. Having been a member of the national executive of two national parties from NRC to PDP, the money is used for something, I must admit. You have to organize what we call primaries, screening purposes, petition, committees at all levels. And sometimes it depends on the parties. One person is paid about 200,000 or 300,000 naira for the period of, the exercise. So I don't know, when we used to do it in PDP, and sometimes they don't even pay the money, because the level of people they appoint to do such duties are such that they don't go hanging. Because if you go to the treasury where we collect the money, you'll be there for 7 hours, they will never come, because they know big men will not wait 1 minute and you'll be one day to collect the money and share. So if they honestly use the money for the purposes for which it was meant, it is outrageous, but there's a purpose for that money. But it's difficult to believe that in these times we are passing through, that somebody will ask, how does a minister pay 100 million? A minister, we know, may not have had any private business before coming into government. How does he pay 100 million? That's a lot of questions for Nigerians to ask. I was looking at the statistics one of your paper reviewers was making on the vice president. No matter how much, even if you're paid 2 or 3 million, if you don't eat in your house, the government feed you, you don't pay school fees for anybody, and you just cover 100 million preparing for an election. How do you do the campaign?
Exactly. Now this money does not include campaigns. It doesn't include.
It's just party money at the party office. As you're collecting your form, you pay this money.
Interest and donation forms.
Yes, and that's the end of the news. It ends here, and it's non-refundable. So it's not just like if you lose,
you can get your money back.
Get your money back. There's no such theory.
All right. So the not too young to run bill, and young Nigerians are saying that that amount is sickening, considering the fact that the president, when he was contesting and appealing for votes, told young Nigerians, don't worry, just give me time. When I'm done, it will be your turn, to come and manage the country once you're able to get into elective positions. And yes, many will thank the president for passing that bill into law. But how does this kind of outrageous sum of money encourage younger Nigerians to participate in politics?
You would have come to the obvious conclusion that Buhari, Mr. President, is another hope betrayed and lost for this country. Many people would have laid down their lives for him before 2015. The aura around him was unquestionable. You think people hated him? You would think he was a magician of some sort in a country where everyone else is a thief. This guy is coming from somewhere. And there was so much love and hope that if he takes over power, something drastic has to happen. But I must tell you that I was one of the very few who said no, that this was a racist. As soon as they made that coup in 1983 December, and he took over his first broadcast, first he put a Kwame in a secret prison and took his president and put in a guest house. And in that broadcast he said that Kwame was involved in every government business that happened, that he was a corrupt person. It was when he was overthrown that Babangida changed that narrative and apologized to Kwame, because they showed that in his account he had 12 million plus naira, then meant over $30 million. And by the time they were overthrown, he had less than 5 million. And you can, Kwame is such a careful person. You can see, hundreds of people were on his scholarship, and you can see the list of those and how he was paying their school fees. And the government couldn't believe it. So when that happened, I said there must be something wrong. Again, he became a chairman of PTF. Until he abandoned the South and Southeast, he wasn't interested. I said there must be something about the culture of this guy that I don't know what people saw in him to, accredit him with so much, highfalutin adjectives of his honesty, that love of country, patriotism. Well, like I said, I think it was on China's television, 2015. I said, no, it's not true. That this fellow is not what people say is. No, and everybody else that's done it.
Okay, let's look at the state of the nation. I mean, the conversation on the summary of forms and the cost of it, somebody who says it almost sounds like a ransom to serve, because even the kidnappers are asking for over 100 million for you to pay to rescue or get back your loved ones, and here we are having politicians also asking for 100 million for forms instead of looking at ways of making sure that insecurity stops and is abated. What is your, I mean, both on the side of the opposition and the side of the incumbent administration, what is your take on their demeanor to the sufferings of Nigeria, considering that we are heading into an election?
No, you can see that they are not interested in that. I don't think there is. How can you, when hundreds of people are being killed on a daily basis in this country, a president jumps into a presidential jet and they call it medical holiday? There is a terminology, medical something. It's under this presidency we started hearing that. Regularly he jumps into his presidential jet and goes off to London. If you remember, it was one of such visits that his minister of Niger Delta, who left PDP to join them, and was being charged for nearly 10 billion already investigated by EFCC. And Nigerians were shown pictures where he was with the president in his flat in London. He came back and joined APC. Lot of Senate in Akwa Ibom lost. They made him a minister. From that time to today, nobody has talked about the corruption and the investigation of EFCC. So this government has never been serious to tell Nigerians that they are here to fight corruption. Absolutely not. And with the Dari and what's the other man, the governor of Taraba, former governor of Taraba. I told you here, in 2003, myself and Tommy Kinney, we screened him. We screened this Taraba governor in Bauchi, that's the location of the zonal headquarters. 17 people, one of the poorest states in the country, 17 people bought forms. And I had the courage to ask them, you paid 3 million naira to buy forms, and they told us the history of this man. I won't go because there's no time. As soon as they told that story, Tony Kinney called me down. This man cannot be a governor. And we disqualified him. And it was on network news. The next morning, Obasanjo brought him back. They jailed him for corruption. And Buhari just released him. But when you look at the composition of the National Council of State, you would ask, did Buhari also intimidate them? What were all of them thinking about the fight for this corruption? How many of them in that Council of State you say have no 10 or 15% of that corrupt tendency? So they can't put their mouth. And with this 100 million thing, it tells you it's investment. Any party, they are hoping to win, because when you see their body language, they don't look like people who want to leave government. But that we will see by next year, because they're all investment. Maybe half of them will become ministers if they win. So it doesn't matter how they get the money to pay in. They are hoping that it will yield some. So some dividend, after 1 year, that they will make some money. But it's political abomination, to be honest with you.
Let's look at something that's what I would like to call somewhat a new development or a new kind of suggestion. Like you probably know already that legal luminary and senior advocate of Nigeria's Chief Afeba Balola recently proposed an interim government for a short period. Chief Balola suggested that the interim government should be for just a short time to discuss a new constitution after President Mohammadu Buhari completes his term. Of course, I know that by now that the response to that hasn't been fair. But I must ask you, what do you think about such a suggestion? So there's this interim government that will discuss all of Nigeria's problems, make amendments to the constitution possibly, and redirect the path of Nigeria, then hand over to a government that has been elected by the people. Is this kind of suggestion constitutionally
I wish I
based?
could remember which program I had on this channel about almost a year ago. I said that this government will attempt to organize a coup on itself because of their failure. That is the beginning of what I said more than a year ago. Afeba Balola is a very senior advocate, very senior one in this country, an accomplished lawyer who knows the unconstitutionality of what he has said, defends it, and he's an advisor to the APC government. Maybe you don't know, he's an advisor to the president. So something is going on. The government has collapsed, just like Bishop Cook has said. The government has collapsed, and the Imam said the government is not doing well. I mean, when the two religious leaders came up to that point, then you know we are the precipice. And one guy by Shehu, I don't know where he's coming from, who has been, I don't know what to call him, since the past 7 years, ridicules and abuses everybody. And not on one occasion has this government called him to order, has the temerity of purpose, the stupendous audacity to embarrass the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, one of the most decent human beings in this country. This is not the first time. He talks about every government in this country, not just the Buhari government. He has been very objective, and that's his job as a religious leader, to point out our shortcomings so that there will be corrections put in place. The reply is to ridicule that level of religious leader, assuming it was a Christian that ridiculed a Muslim cleric. Do you know how this country will be looking at it? They did not stop at that. They ridiculed this imam, I think Upper Villa imam, removed him because he criticized government. So this is a government that is not prepared to lift him in any form. Because when somebody called me yesterday, or day before yesterday, said, Dan, I remember about a year ago you talked about government changing itself. I said, yes. I'm not surprised. With due humility, I think a lot. I do a lot of comparative analysis. I was telling you, Adora, that I took a tour, or I think that was where my knee got bad. I took a tour of this country. I went about 7 states, meeting former NRC chairman and PDP chairman that we sat together. And I was explaining to them, what is the problem? They can explain. They said, Daniel, people are lucky here in the south. We're in hell here. You can't come out, you can't go to anywhere. So nobody really explains. For the past 8 months, Buhari has not been to Daura. I haven't heard of the first lady. I hear she's in Dubai. I don't know whether they eat Naira in Dubai. She's been there for months. So there are cumulative actions this government is taking to make you believe that they're not interested. They're just absolutely not interested in what is going on. When people die in such numbers, look at what's happening in Plateau. So I don't know, for a president who is a Muslim, you know why I love the Muslim religion? 5 times a day they pray to God, knocking their head on the ground. That is the greatest respect you can give to God. What does Buhari tell the president when he's praying? What does he really tell the God we worship? What does he tell God when he's knocking his head on the ground? Is it that his country is beautiful? Like the deputy minister to Chris Ngige, the senior advocate who was EFCC lawyer, Keyamo, so that this is the safest country in the world. He had the temerity of purpose to tell Nigerians that this is the safest country in the world, and he said it and walked away. So when I'm saying that things have come to a head, that only God, and I'm calling on patriotic Nigerians. You know why I say so? I'll ask you to give me 2 or 3 minutes to tell some. About a few months ago, a month before my friend died, Dr. Junaid Mohammed, we all did PRP in 1979 with Mohammadu Kanu, one of the most patriotic Nigerians, one of the most honest human beings God ever made. If there is 7 and you don't see Mohammadu Kanu there, turn back. Forget that he's a Muslim. If you don't see him here, go back. Know that that place is not heaven. We were at Enugu Airport. We were trying to see him off. We came with Balarebe Musa, Abubakar Rimi, this Junaid Mohammed, and a few others. And I was there with SG Koku, Sheshuku Merije, Ato Wankwan, a few others. All these have now died. I think only about 2 at that level remaining. But Ikem Okeke, he is also dead. So I said something to him. That was the day he made me his special advisor for the whole East. And he turned around and said, Dan, I said, sir, he said, Igbos are not capable of a revolution, that they love Nigeria so much. So I said, what do you mean? He said, for somebody to leave his home and go to somebody else's place, invest, marry the local woman, have children, name some of them to local names. It's not hatred, it is love. But let me tell you something. When there is crisis in northern Nigeria and there's bloodletting and people are being killed, that he prays it does not come up, that you know that Nigerian revolution has started and we may not survive it. That was what Dr. Junaid Mohammed called me a month before he died. He said, Dan, I said, my brother, he said, you asked Aminu Kanu a question and he told us this story. Have we reached that point? I said, I'm praying to God. I don't know whether we have reached that point. But I think that's where we are. This is why I'm calling on patriotic Nigerians. There are many of them. To please ask this president not to bring this country down. It will be disastrous for every one of us. That's exactly what Bishop Kuka was saying, that they have destroyed this country. This used to be a beautiful country, beautiful country. You walk into a bank, you take foreign exchange, you go on whatever you want to do in Europe, and you come back. Today, you know, I have a new problem. I'm trying to travel, and I want to ask for foreign exchange, and I paid for $10,000 was 5.8 million naira. Ticket I used to pay business class to London used to be 800,000. Now it's almost 3 million naira. Because I have to be in a seat that I have to stretch my leg. If not, I'll be in trouble. Okay. I have to do it. So how many other Nigerians can afford this? And when you look at them at their whatever they did yesterday, their neck meeting, yes, you can see how flamboyant they were looking. As if they are somewhere.
The president did say, Chief Dan, that Nigerians are forgetful, that with little resources they've done much.
You know,
what are some of the gains that
I'm not one of those who have outright condemnation. And we may have fixed some roads. For instance, in Enugu, from 9 Mile to River, on the left side of it, we have done it. It's beautiful. When I'm going to Anambra, that's the road I take now. It's cut off nearly 1 hour from what it used to be. And there are other roads they have done. As a good Christian, I must give credit when I see one. So, but that is not, the Lord Jesus said, man does not live by bread alone. The insecurity problem in this country makes people not to even remember that there's a place they have touched.
Okay.
Because when people are dying, who will ride on those roads they are trying to fix? Who will ride? I don't know whether it will be you, me, or your brother, your mother, your father. It's reached everywhere now. That the greatest promise they made, because this man is a major general, is this, is that, magic wand, and he couldn't do it. That problem.
I hear you, and you said that you're saying you're begging the president not to bring this country down. And in terms of bringing the country up, do you think that the opposition is even prepared? I mean, the 2023 elections are ahead. We see there is, an argument to do consensus or not to do consensus. The issues within who is the best man to put forward. Do you think they're even prepared?
This is why, I made a comment the last, said, when I was discussing the candidate that come out initially. I said, let them not ridicule the office of the presidency. This is not chairman of local government or state governor, no. It's very serious business. To be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or any other country that, for that matter, is very serious business. But when you see the characters of some people coming out, like I said previously, you see that it's investment for business, investment for appointment they are doing. Because for you to be a president of a country like Nigeria, which is ethnocentric, differentials, you must have built bridges. One, it will be obvious to people that you have built those bridges. If you haven't done that, how do you? 36 states, you win at least 2/3 of them to qualify to be president of Nigeria. But in the spread and the number of votes you got, and I look at some of them, I have been in politics with many of them. They are jokers. I'm telling you, they are not being honest to themselves. Fundamentally not being honest to themselves. Because how do you do it? Even if there are monies they have stolen and kept somewhere, people will take your money and you lose. Jonathan lost. I was telling you here, I met Jonathan 5 times in his office on his invitation. And all the advices I gave him, he didn't take one. His ambassador here will deliver Kanu. His ambassador here will deliver this place. I said the North is prepared to vote for Buhari. You will not get anything. He almost walked me out of his office. He almost did. Recently, I met him in your former chairman's house. He saw me and almost, probably the lamp to open so that he enter. He said, Dan, you warned me. I told you 1 or 2 things to do. That we need to hold this country. And this is where we are. So what I'm saying is that the presidency requires thoughtful people. First, the last time I said you require 3 criteria to be president in this country. You must have knowledge. That means you must have gone to school properly. You must have courage to take action. And you must have reference of what you have done. Because you don't just jump out from somewhere, you want to be governor, you want to be president. If you have been a legislator, tell us what you did. Let us see where you were proposing for the development of this country. We're encouraging a couple of things happening, either in the House of Reps or in the Senate. If you have been a governor, can we see the projects you carried out with the little resources you have? What are the references you're going to make? Because sometimes people tell me he was a successful businessman. A successful businessman is a looter of government money. 90% of them collude with government officials to loot money. So that doesn't qualify you to be president. There must be antecedents we will make reference to. And that's how in the church, you didn't eat church money. All these are services somebody can make reference to. That he was a good treasurer. He was this. He was a good parent of student union. So if I don't see that, that is why I was running down when some friends of mine came to my house and we had a program that I said that my idea of president of Igbo extraction does not restrict itself to the southeast. No. That Nnamdi defined Igbos to be in 7 states in this country. The 5 core Igbo states, Rivers and Delta. That in Rivers you have almost 2 senatorial zones as Igbo speaking. In Delta at least 1.5 senatorial zones as Igbo speaking. So they are all qualified to, if indeed they zone it to Igbo speaking area, they are all qualified. And in making that analysis for their qualification, I said it's only a blind person assuming that it goes down to the southeast or the south or south of Nigeria. You cannot, it will be difficult not to, for you to appreciate what Governor of Rivers State has done. You must be blind.
Okay,
just a second. Because if you visited Port Harcourt 8 years previously, you won't believe it's in the same town. I dare you to go there. Somebody can, and justifiably, look at both the Sultan of Sokoto, all people who have gone there, his colleagues, his governors, colleagues, who go to what do they call, commission projects, they won't believe what is happening. He's not the only one who gets good revenue, but he's applied it to good use. So a reference could be made that if this person has a chance, is given an opportunity, that there will be hope. He's a young person, he recognizes what it means. So what I'm saying that if PDP indeed are serious, that because of the shortcomings of APC, that we want to change the face of this country, I don't care where somebody is coming from. I want to be interested in what that person is capable of doing.
All right, let me come in here too, because this same conversation that you're having, we had this conversation with Dr. Usman Sani, who was a spokesperson for the PDP presidential election, I think in 2019, who said yes, he does agree that Governor Wike is a colossus, somebody who is proactive, and somebody who has helped stay the tides of the PDP even when it was in turmoil. But then this is an election, and people have the right to come out to compete, because it is their right to do so. However, looking at what you have said, there have also been some permutations with somebody who says, oh, perhaps we need to look at the economy and salvage what is left of our economy. And so names like, Dr. Pitobi comes up, and somebody says we need a unifier, and then, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar comes up. Somebody says we need someone who understands the laws, have been in the terrain of the legislature, and then powers are using. There is some semblance of, characteristics of a little bit of the things you have said in each and every one of those men. But you have positioned them just still saying that the governor of River State seems to have what it takes. But do you think that is a general understanding within the political party? Because from what we see, the argument is that you can help the party, but it's not your entitlement to be president.
That is true. Well, if I may answer your question, you mentioned Peter B. He's a personal friend of mine. After the program I had last, I mentioned his name. So some people called me on telephone and said, okay, how can you? And one of them later called me back, so sorry, we didn't watch your interview from the beginning. We just saw where you made a comment on Peter. I said, yes. That if Peter was running for the presidency of Nigeria, what is he looking for where Atiku was declaring? What was he looking for at Atiku's declaration? Not only was he there, he took out the microphone and said he was the greatest unifier, the greatest this, the greatest this. So, was he running for president? I said no. All over the Southeast now they're saying the same thing. I said he was running for vice presidency of Nigeria, not president. If you praise Atiku so much, what will you then say in the field for people to vote for you? What will you then tell them? That this great son of Nigeria, which indeed he is, how then do you come out to contest with him if you believe he is a deliverer? You were his last vice presidential candidate, so you were positioning yourself to be vice president. You weren't positioning yourself to represent my people. If they say it's Igbo tongue, which is a language I don't believe. Because the country is thinking, I want somebody who can perform, not because you speak my language. I'm not interested where you speak my language. In the last election in Anambra State, I did not support PDP candidate, and I gave reasons that of all of them, Soludo was miles apart. That I had the connection as a former governor of Central Bank to come and help my state to develop. A time will come when it will be everybody else. A time will come. But now, very serious times we are facing, that the country is in trouble. So we need people like Atiku Abubakar, who has had experience, who was a vice president of this country. People like Wike, who is continuing to show why he is a presidential material, at least in my party. Others are qualified, but qualification is not enough. It is just not enough. You might be qualified, you may not have courage. There are my people, some of my people I'm looking at, they are PDP in the afternoon, and at night they are Buhari people. I won't call their names. So this is why you don't see them crucified. How many of them have spoken about the condition of Nnamdi Kanu? This is where they should begin. And I tell this government, and I have said it severally, let the president release Nnamdi Kanu. 50% of his problem in this country is security, why you would have stopped. And somebody was asking me how. I said, Nnamdi Kanu, if he comes out, you will not hear a single shot in the whole of Southeast. People like us will talk to him. He can help this government speak to people protesting and fighting in the north. He has become a symbol of protest. legitimate protest. It's become a symbol of people's shortcomings. It's become a symbol of the what I would call the sufferings of people, especially in the South, that are regarded as being marginalized in every aspect of Nigerian endeavor, which is true. That is what he's representing now, and people take him serious. Igbos have a saying: if you have many enemies around you, carry drinks to some, buy drinks for some, so that they will be drinking, and you fight the other battle. When you have finished them, then you come back and face the remaining ones. There are many enemies, there are many battles for Buhari. You cannot win on every front. You must have to be prepared to take risk. Let it be a risk. Since all these things have been happening, has anybody called an iPod or whatever, killing this and this? You don't, occasionally you hear one, this thing. The whole problem is in the 3 zones in the north. That's where hundreds of people are dying. So why won't the president wake up and say, call this young man, what's your problem? Will it be a crime for him to invite Nnamdi Kanu? What is your problem? A boy that was not born at the Civil War. It's where Igbos now, every Monday nobody does anything. Even when they have told us to go walking, nobody does anything. It's symbolic of something. That such a person is somebody you can use to help yourself in the security fight. And you don't be that in the South East there is no problem. Then and ask him, how can you help us? Because people protesting in what they used to call bandits, which reluctantly they label the terrorists of recent. I don't know why they are protesting, but I believe they are Nigerians. Majority of them are Nigerians. So don't we have access to reach them? Are their parents living in the air? This idea of bombing and throwing tanks, moving and bombing, is that how we solve our problem? We are gradually becoming Afghanistan and Iraq. When will it end? Because you are a retired major general, you think you will win all wars. You cannot win every war. This is different from running an army. You are now running a multi-ethnic society that brings with it a lot of considerations which hitherto you may not have thought about. So you will be forced to change to such considerations.
Chief Dan, so much to say, really, a lot of issues you have also raised, and we can't even try to exhaust all the national problems Nigeria is currently faced with. So let's continue on this thread where we are. So 2023 is here, and besides the fact that APCs come out with this 100 million naira, like Daily Sun puts it, presidency for sale, is PDP, your party, positioned to do any better? And how? Because while Nigerians understand that these are the 2 major parties in the country, and most people also believe that if you must come into power, you must belong to either APC or the PDP. This does not negate the fact that there's a third force brewing and ready to come up. But is your party, ready to take advantage of this, perceived failure of the APC to come back into power in 2023?
If you notice my style of delivery, you can see that I run away from mentioning political parties. I seriously go talking about individuals because there's no political party. APC is presently constituted, is headed by a 2-term governor of PDP, former governor of Nasarawa State. He's the national chairman of APC today. I was just opening my briefcase and saw where he was writing a note asking me to do 1 or 2 things for him when he had a presidential ambition. His national secretary was a PDP, I think, senatorial candidate also. 70% of this new executive are all PDP. And likewise, you go to PDP, you see some of their people who are also back there. So I don't discuss APT or PDP. It's not no more important to me. That is why each time I talk, I single out candidates that have capacity, that if given opportunity, they will change and make things better for this country. So it's difficult for me to say whether APC or PDP is better. No, but if you ask me the candidates that have so far come out, in PDP, for instance, I will seriously look at Atiku Abubakar and look at Onyesan Wike. Onyesan Wike goes to my preference because of his antecedents, and current going antecedents of what is doing in Port Harcourt. Nigerians want that kind of continuity. Okay, if you compare him with his state colleague, Nnamdi, PDP, 8 years, Speaker of our House of Assembly, 8 years, our governor, and he jumped ship. It shows you what kind of interest. He's completing another 8 years as minister. So since this the political dispensation began, he's been on top. What reference is he going to tell Nigerians or Rivers people that most of the money being used to develop Nigeria comes from that area? He's building a railway from Katsina to Niger Republic. Is that the reference he will make to the president of Nigeria? That he wrote a memo for money to be released for him, and money was not released. That was why the train accident happened in Abuja. That would be his reference. That from Port Harcourt to Aba, the rail lines don't run up to Enugu. That is his constituency. He was declared, and I was running to show that he was fit. We're not talking about fitness. We want mental fitness, performance fitness. I wonder, was such a person, a brilliant boy, what is he going to tell his people? Let us proceed to Port Harcourt that in these 8 years I've been Minister of Transport. He established Transport University in Daura. Everything he has done is to please Mr. President. Probably they are going to, I wish they bring him out so that he will face weekend and he will be so beaten that he will regret ever coming out into politics.
All right, Dan, I think, so let me ask a very pertinent question, because whoever emerges is coming under a political party, yes, because that is a special purpose vehicle, and people would vote for the person under a party. So it's either you're voting for APC or you're voting for PDP. And I think that is why it's important to look at what the trajectory for PDP is in terms of looking at the optics for 2023. Now, the individuals, like you have mentioned, yes, you have acknowledged that some of them do have, you know, the upper hand because of certain qualities. But then as a party, because what the conversation is in the clear view of most Nigerians is that PDP needs to get its acts together. If not, APC would also be the only alternative, because even the mention of the third force, you know, creates a lot of controversy, saying that they would need the structure, they would need funding, they would need to be able to start, and they didn't start early. So what is the future for the People's Democratic Party as the new horizon for Nigeria in 2023? Are they ready together to harmonize? I mean, these are all individuals, yes, but you must have a party to win an election. Is the party ready for 2023?
This new national executive, headed by Yasha Ayo and Senator Sam Anyanwu, is the best PDP has ever had. Two brilliant, trustworthy people with other members of the executive, and has spoken with all of them. With that kind of executive, the future is under call. And I say that with all manner of sincerity. If we have such a dispassionate group, very objective group, that will be open-minded to everybody, they'll be able to look at our problem objectively. Because problems of political parties is that national executive decide before it is even started. Just like, see what happened with the National Convention of APC. Everything there, because the president is the executive president, he is the president of Senate, he is the speaker, and he's disorganized the judicial division in our own presidency. Has never happened in this country. A chief justice of a country was disgraced out of office, and lawyers still go to court on trumped-up charges, was disgraced out of office. Only recently, Justice Mary Odili, was almost kidnapped, but by the grace of God from her house. The federal government has up to today not made a mention of that incident. It appears the people who did it came from Saudi Arabia or from some country. Then nobody knows about them. But a magistrate granted an order to one address, and they went to Odili's home. So what I'm saying is that PDP is so prepared that when I reduced to two top candidates, that I can proudly, very proudly, so that these are performers. If any of them emerges, But I was very proud to be in the campaign. Both Atiku Abubakar and Onyesom Wike. I'm supporting Wike. He's youthful, he's brilliant, he's courageous, and he has performance antecedents that you can go and look at in Port Harcourt. So I will not be ashamed calling his name. I will not be ashamed.
All right.
Because foreigners have said so. His colleagues have said so. Traditional rulers in this country have said so. So why don't we use that trajectory to push this country forward from the precipice we find ourselves? It requires a courageous person to remove Nigeria. Look at where America is with Trump. 4 years of Trump, Biden is still struggling to put his country afoot. And he has not succeeded yet.
We're going to have to leave it there. It's a good place to anchor. Chief Dan Ulasi, thank you very much for being here, former chairman of People's Democratic Party in Anambra State. We're taking a look at the state of the nation, the 2023 upcoming elections, the aspirants as well, and so much more. So we want to thank you again for your time.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, and all the best for the medical procedure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. Kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remember blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.